Peter!
Spider-Man is about to reveal to the whole world that his real name is Peter Parker, and it's all because Tony Stark talked him into it, or rather, pressured him. See, here's what's happening. The Marvel Universe has just been torn apart by a catastrophic tragedy in Stamford, Connecticut, leading the US government to pass the Superhuman Registration Act, forcing every hero to expose their secret identity. But this created a major split between the heroes. So Tony Stark, the primary enforcer of the registration movement, felt that if he could get Spider-Man to unmask, it would greatly influence the others. But in going along with his mentor, Peter will come face to face with his greatest fear, which is the inability to protect the ones he loves, leading to one of the most important but dangerous moments in Spider-Man's history. Way above the clouds, in a sleek, high-tech private jet, Peter Parker sits across from Tony Stark as they're about to embark in a conversation that will forever change both of their lives, but especially Peter's.
How bad is it, boss?
I don't know, Peter. The local first responders are still sorting through the debris looking for survivors. Depending on how many were killed, this is bad. Or it's very bad.
What Tony and Peter are referring to is the now infamous tragedy at Stamford. A reality TV superhero team known as the New Warriors engaged a group of supervillains way out of their league in a residential neighborhood. During the scuffle, the villain Nitro used his explosive powers to self-destruct right next to an elementary school. Tony gets off his encrypted phone, and the color has completely drained from his face, feeling the crushing weight of the world on his shoulders.
A school, Peter. They took out a school crowded with people. With kids, we're looking at over 600 dead, maybe more. This is beyond very bad. Far, far beyond.
Tony's right, because from this moment forward, the entire landscape of the Marvel Universe has just shifted permanently.
You filthy piece of crap!
We jump forward to find a grieving mother, Miriam Sharp, confronting Tony Stark in the most visceral way possible during the heartbreaking funeral for the hundreds of victims of the Stamford tragedy.
Ma'am, please, we're gonna have to ask you to leave.
Leave what? My own son's funeral! Stark's the one you should be dragging away.
Ma'am, I appreciate that you're upset, but the New Warriors' recklessness had nothing to do with me.
Oh, yeah? And who finances the Avengers? Who's been telling kids for years that they can live outside the law as long as they're wearing tights?
Tony freezes. As he wipes his face with a handkerchief, he can't wipe away the agonizing truth in her words. To the rest of the world, it doesn't matter if Tony wasn't in Stamford. He is the billionaire face of a superhero culture that operates with absolute impunity.
Cops have to train and carry badges, but that's too boring for Tony Stark! Nah, Joe Billionaire here says all you need are some powers and a badass attitude, and you can have a place in his private super gang.
Somebody get her out of here!
You fund this sickness, Stark, with your dirty billions. The blood of my little Damien is on your hands right now.
I hope you're getting all this, Parker.
And it's this exact excruciating moment that fundamentally breaks Tony Stark. He doesn't just see an angry civilian. He sees the undeniable consequence of a powered community running completely unchecked. It is the agonizing pain of a mother who lost her child that forces Tony to realize that things must change, along with witnessing firsthand the horror of the aftermath of this great tragedy. Which brings us back before the funerals, in the smoking ruins of Stamford, where we see Spider-Man, wearing the red and gold Iron Spider suit Tony built for him, standing beside Iron Man. First responders are pulling bodies from the rubble. The air is thick with ash and absolute despair. But worse than the destruction is the way the survivors are looking at them.
Look at them, Tony. The way they're looking at us. The rage in their eyes. It's as if they think we're responsible.
And why not? No, we're not responsible. But we're in the same fraternity of powers. We're the second cousins of the guys who are responsible for the deaths of their loved ones. They hate us, yes, and I don't blame them.
Peter wants to go down and help dig through the rubble, but Tony stops him. The bodies have already been dug out. There's nothing left to save here. But that's when Tony informs Peter that they've been summoned. The White House is called. The President of the United States wants to see exactly what Tony is seeing. So hours later, Peter and Tony are walking through the hallowed halls of the White House. Peter is visibly sweating, completely out of his element.
I am so out of my league. I'm just a kid from the neighborhood, Tony. What am I doing in the White House? I think I gotta pee.
Tony tells Peter to wait in the hall and try not to touch anything breakable while he speaks with the president. So Peter is left standing awkwardly next to a bust of Abraham Lincoln, being stared down by imposing Secret Service agents. When Tony finally emerges, his face is a mask of pure, cold resolve.
What happened? What did he say?
2 things. First, Congress will meet later today to push through the Superhuman Registration Act. It'll be signed within a week.
Peter is stunned. He points out that all the heroes who have worked so hard to protect their real names aren't just going to roll over and accept this. But Tony cuts him off and explains that the rules have changed. The country just shuddered, and the government wants the powers identified, responsible, and controlled immediately. But more important, as they walk out to the waiting limousine, Tony drops the second, much heavier bomb.
The president asked me a question, Peter, and I told him the truth. I told him I was Iron Man.
Peter freezes. For years, Tony had convinced the world that he was no longer Iron Man. But Tony explains that the world where secret identities mattered ended today. Once the president signs the act, any hero wearing a mask will be deemed a bad guy. They get into the back of the limo, and Tony turns to Peter, locking eyes with his young protege.
This is going to split the powered community right down the middle, Peter. I have to take the lead in making the other powers register. If I don't, someone else worse will. I want you at my side, Peter, but I need you as both Peter and Spider-Man, openly.
Boss? Tony? What are you saying?
I'm saying that to make sure everything is on the up and up, the only way Peter Parker can work with me is if Spider-Man unmasks.
Peter's heart drops into his stomach. If he doesn't unmask, he will be hunted down. His assets will be frozen. But worst of all, his Aunt May and his wife Mary Jane will be considered accomplices and thrown in federal prison. Tony is essentially backing Peter into a corner, promising to protect Peter's family, but at the same time, the threat is clear. Stand with me or stand against the entire United States government. Later, on the private jet flying back to New York, Peter is alone with his thoughts, and the sheer terror of his reality is setting in. He pulls out his phone and makes a call.
Right, yes. I know you're about to close, but could you give me the total amount in my accounts?
Sure. Do you need it for your shared accounts as well?
No, not the shared accounts with my wife. Just mine. Savings, checking, everything.
He jots down the number on a notepad. $11,273.45. He then asks if he can withdraw it at any time without penalty. You see, in this moment, Peter isn't thinking about fighting aliens or stopping bank robbers. He's thinking about how he's going to afford to feed his family if he has to take them on the run as fugitives. He is completely, utterly terrified. Days later, in his apartment, Peter stands by the massive glass windows overlooking the New York skyline. Mary Jane and Aunt May are with him. Peter explains the dire situation. If he puts on the mask and walks out the door tomorrow, he becomes a criminal.
If you don't go public, will he turn you in? If he's asked, will he name your name?
I don't know. Maybe. Except I don't know anybody that Tony doesn't know. If I don't come out, I'll have to go on the run. No help, no contact, no money other than my own.
MJ immediately says they will go with him. But Peter refuses, knowing they'll be arrested for aiding and abetting. He feels the walls pressing in on him. All his life, he has guarded his secret identity with everything he has. And the mere thought of taking off the mask in public makes him feel physically sick, quite literally. But then, Aunt May steps forward. Now remember, for decades in comic lore, Aunt May viewed Spider-Man as a terrifying menace. But recently, she discovered the truth, so her perspective shifted entirely.
Can I say something? When I found out you were Spider-Man, once I got over the shock, do you know what my first emotion was? Anger. Not at you, Peter. I was mad at the world. Because parts of that world called Spider-Man a monster, a criminal. And if I know anything about my nephew, it's that he is not a criminal.
She looks at Peter, her eyes welling with tears, then adds,
There are hundreds of people alive right now because you were there at the right moment. I'm proud of you, Peter. And now, maybe, it's time for the whole world to be proud of you, as I know you.
Peter is torn. He tells her he made a promise when he was 16 to protect her, but May tells him that was a child's promise. Mary Jane steps up beside May, wiping a tear from her own eye.
She's right. Don't run. Stand your ground. Let the whole world understand why we love you, more than life itself.
With his two greatest anchors giving him their blessing, Peter hugs them both tightly. The decision has been made. 4 days later, Peter is standing in his bedroom, staring at MJ as he's getting ready for the most terrifying day of his life. As he heads out to catch his flight, Aunt May brings him his classic red and blue mask and full suit to wear for the big day. The Iron Spider suit Tony gave him was a marvel of technology, but Aunt May stitched up his old suit for this specific moment. She tells him that this way, the world will know for sure it's really him.
Ben always said, with great power comes great responsibility. And responsibility means you don't run away when someone asks, who did that?
Leaving Peter to reflect. The next morning, Tony is getting ready for the big moment, still unsure if Peter's actually going to show up. But then,
You took us in when we had nowhere else to go. You've been good to MJ and to Aunt May. You stood by us. You've been like a father to me.
Peter then shakes Tony's hand and tells him,
I made a promise that I would stand by you, no matter what. I keep my promises, Tony. So, do what you have to. I'll back you up, all the way.
And so, Peter gets ready to step out into the blinding lights of the press room. Tony Stark takes the podium first to say a few words about the pro-registration movement. The world's media is watching. Peter steps up to the microphones. His heart is pounding out of his chest. He reaches up, grabs the fabric at his neck, and pulls the mask over his head.
My name is Peter Parker, and I've been Spider-Man since I was 15 years old. Any questions?
The immediate aftermath of Peter's sentence is like a seismic event. In the blink of an eye, the news hits the television networks, and in a massive display of real-world consequences, over 30 million people go online simultaneously to run a Google search on Peter Parker, and they literally crash the entire internet. But while the world is busy rebooting its routers, the most heartbreaking reaction happens in the offices of the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson, the man who has spent his entire career waging a journalistic holy war against Spider-Man, is sitting at his desk, chewing nicotine gum because he recently gave up cigars. His closest friend and editor, Robbie Robertson, is standing with him, both in shock in front of this historic live TV broadcast. And Jonah just stares at the screen, in total disbelief. The face of the vigilante he despises is the face of the young, struggling photographer he has known for years.
He was like a son to me. I gave him his start as a photographer.
Jonah feels totally betrayed.
In a world built on lies, I thought. He's the only one who's always been straight with me. The last honest guy in town.
Jonah's expression turns from heartbreak to pure, boiling fury.
There's an old saying, Robbie. Enemies can kill you, but only your friends can hurt you. Spider-Man was a thorn in my side, but it's Peter who has finally succeeded in hurting me. And there is a price for that.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, Peter is confronting his new reality, stuck in a restroom, violently throwing up in a toilet. The sheer terror of what he just did is wreaking havoc on his nervous system.
It wasn't the easy thing to do, but it was the right thing to do. I've never seen the Washington press corps stunned like that before.
But Peter is in no laughing mood.
You don't know what it's like, Tony. You don't know because you've never had a family to worry about. Every day of my life since I was 15 years old, I've lived in absolute terror of just this moment. If this goes wrong, if anything happens to MJ or May, I want your word that you'll take care of them.
Of course. You have nothing to worry about.
Good.
But without wasting any time, Tony gets back to business and tells Peter that after taking a short break to be with MJ and Aunt May, they have a serious but secret matter to attend to. So he'll need him back in Washington soon. Peter walks out to the waiting limousine, and the reality of the superhuman Civil War hits him instantly. Behind police barricades, the crowd is violently divided. Some people are holding signs saying, "We love you, Peter," while others are screaming,
Ha! Spider freak! Go back under the web you crawled out from!
So as Peter rides off into the limo, he immediately calls Mary Jane, who reassures him that he did great and looked confident. But in spite of the good words from even the likes of Reed Richards and Susan Storm of the Fantastic Four, Peter just can't shake off the feeling that he's just made the worst mistake of his entire life. But things are about to get even worse. Back in New York, as he walks down the tarmac, a man in black awaits with a letter for Mr. Parker.
Mr. Parker, my name is Pierce McPherson. I represent the Daily Bugle. This letter confirms the intent of our client to initiate suit against you for misrepresentation, fraud, breach of contract, and several other related charges.
Peter reads the paper. Jonah isn't just firing him, he's suing him to retrieve all the money he ever paid him for photos of himself.
Plus, punitive damages. We'll be seeking damages of no less than $5 million.
Peter just sighs, sarcastically asking if they want to run him over with a car a few times just to complete his day. As Peter makes his way back into the city, we see the reactions of everyday New Yorkers. The press is hounding him at the entrance of Stark Tower. Even Flash Thompson, Peter's high school bully and Spider-Man's biggest fan, is watching TV in his apartment. He drops his can of beer on the floor, absolutely dumbfounded.
Puny Parker is Spider-Man? No way.
But Flash is the least of Peter's worries, because many of Spider-Man's mortal enemies are also taking in the news, pondering vengefully on their next move now that they know Spidey's real identity. Later that night, in the quiet shadows of their apartment, the adrenaline has finally worn off, leaving Peter physically trembling. MJ holds him close, noticing the shaking, but Peter tries to play it off, and she sees right through it as she holds him, reassuring him that he did the right thing and that she is incredibly proud of him. But this tender moment is cut short when Aunt May steps into the room, her face pale.
You should take a look at what's on the TV. It's not you, Peter. It's Mr. Stark.
Peter and MJ walk into the living room to see Tony Stark on a live national broadcast. But Tony isn't just giving a political update, he's laying down the law.
The deadline for registration has come and gone. Starting this time tomorrow, anyone on this list who has not come forward to register will be hunted down, arrested, and imprisoned, without exception.
When a reporter asks if he intends to arrest them himself, or if others have signed on to help, Tony drops a bombshell that makes Peter's blood run cold.
We do have a strike team consisting of Reed Richards, Hank Pym, and Spider-Man.
What the?
MJ turns to Peter, asking if he knew anything about this, but Peter had no idea. He feels like everything is suddenly spinning out of control. Things are moving way too fast, and despite MJ's attempts to reassure him, the panic is setting in. Not to mention that, Aunt May voices the exact, terrifying thought on everyone's mind.
Does this mean you may have to fight Captain America?
Suffocating under the weight of it all, Peter says he needs fresh air. He and MJ try to slip out through the building's back service entrance to avoid the mobs out front. But it's no use. The moment they step into the alley, they are instantly swarmed by a frenzy of reporters.
Mr. Parker, a question!
Suddenly, Peter's spider sense screams in his head, but there are too many people pushing and shoving. He can't get a fix on the threat. That's when, out of the crowd, steps a bald man wearing a Captain America t-shirt, and he's pointing a loaded handgun right at Peter's chest.
I'm Captain America's #1 fan, and you're a traitor to everything he stands for.
Please, God.
The man pulls the trigger, but Peter is just fast enough to shoot a web, plugging the barrel of the gun a split second before the bullet fires, causing the gun to explode directly into the man's hand. As the police tackle the screaming gunman to the pavement, the man vows his revenge.
I'll sue! You blew up my hand! I'll sue you!
Get in line. Come on, MJ.
The next day, up on a rooftop overlooking the city, Iron Man descends from the sky, landing heavily on the concrete. Peter is already there, waiting in his iron spider suit. The atmosphere is incredibly tense, and Peter has serious questions for Tony.
Why didn't you talk to me before you threw my name out there?
Tony stays calm, telling him there wasn't time and asking point blank if Peter is changing his mind about backing his play.
Are you changing your mind?
I'm saying that if I have to go up against some of our guys, people I trust and respect, I'd like to at least be included in the process, so I'm not freaking blindsided by this. I call you boss because I know it bugs you. Don't start taking it too seriously.
Tony looks at his protege, realizing he pushed the kid too far, too fast.
You're right. I should have talked to you. I apologize.
Good. That's a start.
But right after this arguably half-hearted apology, Tony gets right back to business and finally briefs him on this secret mission he told Peter about back in Washington.
Now can we get to work? Because as much as you don't want to go up against the very people we've fought alongside for so many years, I don't think we're going to have much choice in the matter.
Tony walks Peter toward the rooftop doors leading inside the compound.
So it's best I introduce you to the others you'll be fighting with in this war, before the dying starts. tomorrow.
And standing before Peter is Tony's fully assembled pro-registration strike team, all geared up and ready for battle. That's when Peter realizes that this isn't just a political stunt anymore. He has officially enlisted in a war against his own friends. A civil war. Hey Overlords, thanks so much for watching, and I really hope you'll subscribe to this channel, because the rest of this story, as well as many others, is to be continued.